Well, joining us now is Akande, host of Inside Sources and former presidential aide. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good to see you guys again.
You know, when we say inside sources, we actually mean inside sources. I don't know what you make of that, but
okay. All right. Many would have said, well, maybe you had to pull the string to get that detail. But yes, that was done. But it was yesterday as well. I think we saw a clarification from presidency that he actually tendered his resignation, not that he was sacked. Right. As many outlets are also put out there that he was. But so, what do you have for us now?
Well, I think to take it from your last point, I think it was a little bit too late for the presidential statement to say that he was not sacked. Now, normally, the announcement of what happens in the president's cabinet should come from the presidential spokesperson. So if you read the statement that came out from the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, whoever wrote that statement was summarizing the memo that led to the removal of those two ministers. Whoever drafted that statement from the
memo that was sent,
the memo that the president approved that those two cabinet members should leave. The guy who wrote that statement took it from there, which is not normally the right thing to do, because an internal memo of government is meant for internal consumption. There are some information there that is not designed for the public. And that is where the confusion arose. I mean, I had asked the question that Mr. Bayo Ononuga ought to be the one to come out and tell us that this is what has happened, and to set the narrative that it is a resignation. But that statement from the office of the SGF didn't say that it's a resignation. It said that they will be leaving the cabinet, which is, and then it talks about issues.
So it left room for interpretation.
Yes, and even was talking about where the government wants to do synergy and all kind of stuff, which indicates that something is wrong. So Mr. Ononuga was just trying to do catch up. You know, what ought to have happened is that he ought to be the one to tell us what happened, a big issue. That way, there wouldn't be need for catch-up. But what is very clear is that everybody who watches the Villa closely has seen the tea leaves that, look, Mr. Edun was going to have to go.
Yeah, but I mean, one would have also said that he too would have seen those leaves. The question was why he did not take it when it could easily have been explained as a resignation, not now when he's now also been, well, I don't want to say pushed out. That's what that is coming to my mind, because now they are saying, no, it was not pushed out, was not forced to leave. But this has happened alongside another minister, the Minister of Housing, who hasn't said anything. He has not clarified whether he too resigned, because we do know that there was a window given for people who wanted to resign from the president's cabinet. To resign, you know, exactly, and do politics. So we do not know if the Minister for Housing, for instance, falls within that particular category. But this is where we are right now. So isn't it too late in the day for all of this clarifications and non-clarifications, especially when you're reading things like the insider gist that the cable, for instance, was given in terms of what the sins of Mr. Edun were?
Well, you know, so yeah, I think the presidential spokesperson is playing catch up. I think he also indicated that the housing minister also left, you know, made a resignation, you know, according to him. So probably we don't know why, but I don't want to go into the details of what happens, because, you know, I don't really think it's going to help the public interest. You know, so I would like to divulge some of the things that, you know, because it's not really, it is not inspiring at times. You know, it's no use talking so much about them. What is important is, so what is going to happen next?
Yeah, but some people will say we have to understand the past to know what is going to happen next. Yeah. Especially some of the things that we're hearing from the cable. I don't know if you read that report yesterday.
Yeah, well, there's a report from the cable, there's a report from Premium Times, and there's also a report from Empowered Newswire. There are, you know, so everybody has a little bit
of everything. So maybe if we piece all of that together, we can understand what exactly is happening. So if we read all of those reports and we piece everything together, we do know that trouble is not over, so to speak, and that the new man on the bloc also has his work cut out for him. Will he be able to manage all of this competing interests effectively? So that's why we need to know if indeed there was any truth to some of these things that we have heard behind the scenes.
You know, I mean, Mr. Odonoga, we have to be the one to come and tell us categorically what happened. Please don't forget that I'm a journalist at this point.
You're a journalist.
I can't.
And you're our inside sources journalist.
You know, I mean, what I know is that the president made up his mind, at least, a couple months back, and did ask Mr. Edun to step aside. He even told him that, look, so that I can take care of your health, but he wasn't pretty much ready to leave at that time. Because some of the things that is happening behind the scene is that you have a number of younger technocrats who the president have come to depend on, and Mr. Oyedele is one of them. The other one, just for, is Mr. Zach. Adedeji. I mean, the president depends on those two people very, very much. And if you look at their work, both of them, you won't be surprised that the president is really, leaning on them. Now, that didn't go down well with Edun, who was the Minister of Finance, who is actually the longer ally of the president. So over the years, as a matter of fact, there has been conflict between, what the younger technocrats are saying and what Edun wanted to do. People don't know a lot of that. But so that is where we figured out that, look, this thing is going to have to give, because for the most part, the president was listening to Zach and Oyedele more than he was listening to Edun. So you could tell when Oyedele was then taken to the Ministry of Finance that clearly, that is the direction that the president is going. That is enough that I think the public needs to understand. There are a lot of other details that I don't think is ennobling enough for us to even repeat.
Ennobling. Ennobling is a very interesting word to use in this circumstance. I'm just a little curious. I'm sure the public is also curious. As you rightly highlighted, is the president's long-term ally. He's been in the cabinet of the president for, interestingly, I think when he even served there, he resigned at some point. But he worked with the president. When the president took office, assumed office, he was already working behind the scenes. And the president, expressed every confidence in him that with people like you here, he mentioned his name specifically, and he wasn't even Minister of Finance at that time, and he not just made him Minister of Finance, he made him coordinating Minister of the Economy. That is how much confidence he reposed in him. So there'll be questions as to what exactly went wrong. These are legitimate questions.
Of course, without a doubt. I mean, and don't forget also that in the presidential system, people they serve at the pleasure of the president, So in the presidential system, the president can just wake up and say, "Okay, please just go home."
And just wake up and and tell a long-time ally.
Yeah, well, I think that the relationship between Mr. Tinubu and Mr. Edun is still going to continue. I can say that much. It's not something that is messy. Of course, there is a little bit of tension and irritation. I think it was the cable that pointed out that Mr. Edun's birthday was missed, by the presidency, which has been issuing birthday. Yeah, I mean,
how could it be a long time?
So that just tells you of some of the little tension that is there. But I don't think the relationship is going to be that really battered or wrecked necessarily. I don't think so. Just like you said, Mr. Edun had left also when he was commissioner. He didn't go all the way through. And there are also indications that he's actually he needs to pay more attention to his health. So the president just felt that, look, I need to push my agenda forward, and I want to follow these younger chaps.
Yeah, let's go to the people who are currently there now. I mean, Mr. Oyedele has his work cut out for him. He's now taking the reins as Minister of Finance, and it's unsure whether he's also taking that role as coordinating Minister of the Economy. We don't know if he also has that, but
it's public. It's also the Minister for Coordinating Economy. I think it's there in the statement of the SGF.
Okay, so let's go with that. I can't get my hand on the statement now, but this is what we have. We're in an election year, and we know that the election year is not exactly a year known for great fiscal discipline. It's a year when oftentimes the budget is not implemented, and we've seen even when we should have had issues with we should have had substantial implementation of the budget. We've seen now that we're now going into 2026 with 2025's budget, we have to implement it to a certain extent and before we now start to implement, or maybe they're going to be implemented concurrently, particularly the recurrent expenditure part of the 2026 budget. But this is where we are now. What do you think he really and then you have a lot of people, contractors, who are complaining, we've not been paid. You have ministries, departments and agencies saying they've only been able to get a little fraction of what has been budgeted to them. People have been lobbying, and it's really unclear what the country's finances are. We know we've been borrowing a lot of money. That is something that we all know. So for you, where do you think he really has the bulk of work to do? Is it first in instilling confidence? Because there are those who are saying that this change in reins at this point in time might also send a signal to the international community. Do you exercise any fears in that regard?
Well, I think, to the extent of what we know about Mr. Oyedele, in my view, it brings confidence, actually. Because if you look at the public
confidence to the president.
Yeah, to the president and even to the system, because, Oyedele is somebody that is clearly, he understands the role of engaging the media, engaging the people. If you look at how he managed the tax reform, with all the storms, I think you have to give him credit. I mean, if anybody in government, my dear friends, if they understand how to manage the press, they understand 50% of the work. And that's what we even say about somebody that, we think is involved in a lot of political absurdities, like Wike knows how to manage the press, and that is a good thing. So Oyedele brings that to this cabinet, just like people like Pate and Alausa also do, and to let's extend the Interior Minister. Anybody who understands that the government has a role to play to communicate with people has a fair chance. That's number one. Number two, you have to also give him the fact that he is a brilliant, fiscal expert, without a doubt. So that's why I say I'm not surprised that the president, at this point, is saying that, look, I need to get this thing fixed. Let me follow this guy. He knows what he does. He inspires confidence. I will expect him to be able to sort out some of the problems that you have spoken about, in a more effective way. That is the expectation.
Well, I mean, President, listen to those two key people, tax people. Yeah. It means we Nigerians should brace ourselves.
Absolutely.
They want to tax the daylight out of us.
Because
we have our work cut out for us, we Nigerians.
We must also insist on performance and delivery.
So I believe Mr. Edele will come and answer that very soon. That belief that they're going to tax the daylight out of you.
That's it now, because, I mean, if you are listening to those two key people, they are tax people now. So what they all they understand is tax.
Well, we're already out of time. I know Chairman is close. But what challenges do you really see in front of him, very quickly, if you can enumerate that in
well, of course, quite a few.
Apart from cynics like this man.
Quite a few. I mean, there are fiscal challenges clearly about, how much of the targets, of the budget targets are being implemented, what is happening to revenue. Don't forget that there was a time when even Edun had to say that we're not meeting revenue targets. So there are quite a lot. I mean, there are contractors that have not been paid. And I understand that, a lot of them have also spoken to the president and said that, look, what's going on there? So he really has his work cut out for him. What I think is going to be most challenging for him is the role as being the coordinating minister of the economy. Because now he's one of the newest members of the cabinet, and guess what? He's going to have to be the boss on the issue of the economy. So that will be an area that he really needs to sit up and gain the confidence, of the members of the cabinet in order to be able to deliver on that assignment.
So definitely they might give him an economist minister of state for finance.
Oh, well, yeah, that's the economy president. If not, I guess, maybe...
Well, it will be difficult to raise the fact that they want to tax the whatever out of us. Because at the end of the day...
we have to pay taxes.
You're making money, Chamberlain.
Absolutely. And I think we have to pay taxes in this country. But, the reason why there is so much distrust is because people don't think that government resources are being expended prudently.
They don't see.
But the way we also get a little bit of voice is the fact that we pay taxes. If we pay taxes, then we can insist on accountability.
Of course, we have to keep asking that question. So they shouldn't, that's taken for granted. That we will ask, we should ask the living daylight out of them as well. If they're going to tax the living daylight out of us. Well, that wraps it up today at the program. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Akande.